Malcolm Jolley for the Wino Journalist podcast. Again, we have Jens Peter Barynin from Vivi Economics here to tell us about what's going on with the economics of wine. Uh, we're going to talk about prices. And if you like to drink wine, like I like to drink wine, you may have noticed that prices are up. How far up are they and how come?
Prices aren't up. They are in nominal dollars, but they're not when you adjust for inflation, right? And that's sort of more important because it's all about real, baby. Real dollars. That's it.
Right.
Like nominal is like an illusion, right? We don't care if we got a 10% raise, which sounds great, if the price of everything's gone up 20%, right? Then we've lost money. So that's the notion of nominal versus real. So real prices are at low levels. They've sunk since 2020. So it's an illusion. It's an illusion that prices have gone up. We feel it, we see it, but no, it hasn't. Price of wine hasn't kept up with inflation.
So it's just the value of our money is lower.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's exactly that. So when you go back to what's happening, it totally makes sense because demand is actually down, and um, And so it makes sense that real prices are lower because demand's down. So that pushes down real prices, should push down in theory, or we say as economists, ceteris paribus, everything else held consistent. Um, uh, so if demand's down, that pushes prices down. But on the supply side, it's actually up. The supply's up. And um, and the costs of that supply have kept in line with inflation. Right? They've been high. The price of producing wine has gone up considerably. Um, but why do I say there's a lot of supply? You hear about like, what we were just talking about France or,
Well,
what OIV just put out as in their report. Um, the bottom line is that, and in fact, actually, I'll say production in the US, for example, a very big producer, right? Fourth largest producer in the world, biggest market in the world. Their production is way down from their peaks in 2018, 19, 20, right? And they have never come back. For 3 years, they've been low, but they haven't been low enough to keep pace with the demand coming down. So what's happening, Malcolm, is the inventories, and it's totally under analyzed, but the inventories at the wholesale level in bond, and I suspect maybe at the consumer level, but that's not as important. But the inventory stocking of wine out there is like at the highest level that we've ever seen, measured in a number of different ways. We could talk about like total volume, or we could talk about it relative to the demand or days of supply. And our estimation is that we've broken through the roof on all of those measures.
so that's worth considering that, wine is not a perishable item. If you make it, you can store it. In fact, so a lot of wine it's stored on purpose, but maybe not all of it is being stored on purpose. That
Yeah,
really there's sounds like there's more wine chasing not enough dollars.
not enough buyers,
Yeah,
not enough drinkers, right?
right.
Yeah. So, and it's not even, like you can't make these global statements for the entire wine industry across the whole spectrum all the time, right?
Sure.
But it is true. Like what we're talking about, all we're talking about is the tides of the overall industry. And they do move and everything gets affected together, like it or not, no matter what you're producing, right? But uh yeah, it's certainly in what we're seeing is that the inventory buildup seems to be more on the low grade wines than the high price ones.
Well, it's more not so great news if you're making wine or trying to sell it.
Yeah, I'd say okay, positive spin. Can't help myself here. Yeah, because you're right. Again, it's a little bit of dour, and I think it's we're coming into a tough time for the industry, and all industries, all sectors, they cycle. And there is a rebalancing of demand supply that has to happen, and that's going to cause pain for some, opportunities for others. Um, but when we come through all this, and I'm talking US and globally, these things that are sort of unwinding, the industry is going to be healthier, it's going to be more stable, and it's going to be moving into a phase where there's going to be a new demographic development and demand. So, it's just things are changing. That's it.
Fair enough. Well,
Yeah.
that's the only constant is change, and
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here to explain it for us. Jens Peter Barynin and Vivi Economics. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Malcolm.